Good evening, everyone. Our meeting was called to order a little while ago in our closed session, so we're open. And we're going to start with our student representative reports.
Good evening. My name is Sonia Manloy, and I'm a junior at High School North. The High School North musical, Joseph in the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, was a huge success with a great turnout on February 28th and March 1st through 3rd. The cast and crew put on an amazing performance. High School North's junior prom is 1 month away, and tickets are on sale starting tomorrow. The senior class is getting ready for the trip to Disney, which begins on March 20th.
Hi, my name is Olivia Browndorf, and I am a junior at High School North. Along with the seniors, the juniors are gearing up for their Washington seminar trip, which departs on March 19th. But before then, they have to accomplish one thing this weekend, the SAT. Hopefully all of our students' work pays off so they can have a no-stress school trip. Last Friday was the kickoff of our spring season, and we couldn't be more excited to see what all of our student athletes accomplish on the field this season. Looking forward to a warm and fun month of March.
Good evening, everyone. South has been bustling with activity this past month. Spring sports began practicing this past week despite the cold weather outside. South's musical Bring It On was a huge success, bringing the community together over the weekend. Alongside the cast and crew, some of the High School South cheerleaders got the opportunity to perform their stunts on stage during the show. The junior class embarked this morning on their Washington seminar trip, in which they will tour a variety of sites all over the D.C. area. The senior class has their baggage checked tomorrow night for their Disney trip, which is this Thursday. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Have a good time on your trips.
Madam President, just before we move on, I apologize. There were just 2 items that just were noted in the executive session agenda that just need to be added to the resolution that was available in the back. That would be number 7. In addition to the docket numbers that are listed, the board also discussed docket number MER-L-1828-17 and as well as potential ethical issues. Other than that, everything else was covered.
Thank you. And now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Russo for the budget presentation.
Thank you. Actually, tonight, it's more of a quick synopsis of what we've done up to this point. On March 19th, we'll have the formal presentation. So, keeping in line with the normal presentations for each year, everything we do all year, we tie it back to the mission statement and the goals of the district. So the first several slides are the typical mission statement, and then we have the overall strategic goals, and then we have goal 1. And you've seen these at each of the presentations, but when we do sit in the budget meetings, we do discuss the goals and how what we're doing ties out to them. Goal 2, and then goal 3, and getting into some of the meat and potatoes of the budget. The budget process pretty much happens all year. We start working on different areas of next year's budget as soon as the previous years is passed, which in this case will be April 30th. Will be the public hearing and adoption. March 19th, we'll approve it here that evening, or we'll discuss it. Hopefully it's approved that evening, and it'll be filed the next morning on the 20th. The governor gave his budget address today, and on March 7th, which is 2 days from now, 48 hours, we should receive our state aid numbers. That's in statute that occurs, and it should. The rest of the dates going up are different milestones during the year. The proposed budget for 1920, again, you've seen this slide before. The budget's a planning tool. It considers contingencies. It manages risk. It has to be fiscally responsible. It's a reflection of the board's values, and it must board and community values, and must consider safeguards and buffers. So you have 2% on the general tax, on the general fund tax levy. We realize that that's what the state requires, 2%, but there are adjustments. And one adjustment is for health care, another adjustment is for increased enrollment. We are not at the increased enrollment adjustment yet, however, for health care we are. The state advertised that the state health plan went down by 0.2% or something this year. However, the state educators' health care fund went up by 6%. So we're allowed to budget up to 4% of that 6% amount, given the fact that we can indeed, prove that expenditure. So we're coming off a 15-month rate lock on our health care during the budget year. You'll see that as we go forward into those slides. So this basically just gives our parameters of what we're working on or can work with. We have bank cap. We actually have $2.14 million of bank cap. What that means is that's taxing authority that we have not asked for over the last 2 years. We're going to lose $397,000 of that ability to ask for money because we would have to ask for the entire $2.14 million in order to use the $397,000 of that number. So since we're not going to ask for that additional taxing authority, we lose $397,000. This budget, as it's going forward, actually leaves us with $1.4 million in banked cap when all is said and done. So the reason that's important is because that's spending authority that we're not asking for, and it does expire after 2 years. Governor's budget address, as I mentioned, was this afternoon at 2. State aid numbers will be released March 7th. Our prescription increases were actually, our experience is a little over 100%. What that means for every dollar we're paying in, the insurance company's paying out a little more than $1. So we're expecting a double-digit increase in the prescription lines. Healthcare benefits are coming off a 15-month rate lock, so you can expect that there'll be an increase there. It'll be based on our experience and not an anticipated experience. Realize we went with a new company a year ago, 15 months ago, and it was based on an anticipation, and hopefully it wasn't a bait and switch concept, which we don't think it is. And we also have 16 employees coming off of parents' plans, so they're 25-year-olds turning 26. So that's, besides any new employees that we hire, there are 16 additional current employees that will be taking health benefits, or at least a waiver, if not health benefits. Actually, they'll be taking health benefits because in order to get a waiver, you have to prove that you have health benefits elsewhere. Big picture topics, always special services, always healthcare costs, capital projects, technology, security, staffing needs, transportation, and salary increases. So as we're working towards the final budget, here's some of the change in appropriations year over year. Regular programs, you see it's up to $53 million. That $2.2 million difference, $1 million of that is from technology that was in capital. I'm looking at my cart right here. I'm looking at my cart right here. That was in capital projects, which was in Fund 12. We moved it to Fund 11, where it should be. Special ed tuition, we had a large decrease in tuitions. We brought students back. The actual special ed lines for our in-house program have gone up. But the net difference is $662,000 because when you bring students back, you have to support them in-house. Those supports have increased in our actual budget on those lines. The tuition lines have gone down by a larger amount to offset it by $662,000. In the state software, there's checks and balances, so it's not like we could have just kept tuition flat, increased the other side of our in-house programs because, quite frankly, the state software flags that you have to match the students that you're sending out, you have to match with initials in the county office. And then also on the in-house side, as I'm mentioning, if we increase the number to make that difference 0. It's flagged because there's a spreadsheet that any line item that increases by more than 4% gets flagged at the county office, and they review that. So that's a legitimate number of how special education's rolling out for next year. And that's for all the lines, quite frankly. That checks and balances piece that I've mentioned, other than tuition, because tuition is actually initial for students. Ed support services, that's everything other than like direct instruction. So that's your well, other than basic skills and some remedial programs. It's your school level administration, your guidance, reading intervention, BCBA, personnel. So there's quite a few budget positions in that area. Nurse, OT, PT, guidance, child study team, media, speech, and school district level administration. District-wide administration is the next line. Facilities and plant is the line after that. You have security and grounds, that's class 3s, that's eyes on the door, EOD, eyes on the door, and then you also our grounds, actually our landscaping and grass cutting, that falls all in that one area. Transportation, we lost, was it 20-some routes in, 20-some tiered routes, I believe it was 40 overall in August. That increased to the budget when we went out to bid. Realized the contracts that we lost were bid in a time when fuel was about $1.03 a gallon. You know, fuel is, for diesel fuel is over $3 a gallon still. I say still because it's gone up and down. So we lost a bus vendor last summer. We lost 21 routes, 40-some tiered. And we've already received notice that there's going to be another 21 routes not renewed going forward. And again, when the routes that were currently in place that we bid were bid at a fuel price of about $1.03, $1.08 a gallon, and fuel prices are now $3 a gallon. So we're expecting an increase. The increase during this year was over 400,000. We're expecting an increase of over 400,000 in the new bids. Employee benefits and insurance, discuss those. Co-curricular athletic activities, $54,000 increase. Capital outlay and equipment. If you remember, I mentioned $1 million in technology, in Chromebooks, quite frankly. Notice they've been moved over into the instructional line, which they should have been all along. And the difference goes from 5.3 to 3.1 million in capital outlay and summer projects. Here's the capital reserve and capital outlay projects. We have the high school south ball stopper. That's along 571. Keep foul balls in the softball field out of the road. That was a recommendation from our insurance company. High school north parking lot is a secure place to park the buses at high school north. High school north salt storage, place to store salt on the in the Plainsboro side of the community. Right now, everything comes out of south. All trucks have to converge on south and then go back to their buildings. There'll be one on the north part of the community. High school north roof restoration, just additional work on the roof that's required. High school north locking hardware. We designated an area that we want to hit with that. GMS Grover roof coating. Again, that's just additional work that it's been on the long-range plan. We're kind of moving it forward because we know we're going to be doing an expansion there. So if we can get this part of the roof done, it's just one less contractor there in the future. Village, again, the salt storage that was at South, we're looking to see if we can have it approved and brought over here towards Village. Just because access to it, it's not the easiest access to get to it at South. So we want to move it over here. Dutch Neck, the Airedale, they're the HVAC units, the self-contained units. If you've been in some of the classrooms and it looks like a big refrigerator in the back of the room and a closet, they're the Airedale units. Airedale units. Dutch Neck exterior doors, if you've noticed walking around Dutch Neck, some of the doors are in bad shape. Our intention is to have those replaced over the summer. That's $1.8 million. Annual buildings and ground projects, they're your asphalt, concrete repair, various projects like that that we typically do over the summer, over each summer. So, that's that area. Okay, so we have other cost factors. So, as we built this budget, as we build every budget, you have to look forward. We've got some increases coming in fixed costs over the next several years. First off, the teacher's contract expires June 2020. Buildings and grounds, currently Aramark, that contract expires June 2020. Food services contract expires June 2019. We're in the middle of it. We're going to start a special education program review. You've heard the report on the media center program review and the health and PE program review that's going to take place. GPS on our district-owned buses. We're looking into that. And we have minimum wage increases coming. And we'll hit on that in a second. Teacher contract settlements have been going up the last several years since the sunsetting of Chapter 78. So actually since the implementation and then the sunsetting, they started to jump a little further. That's the Chapter 78 is the amount that employees pay. Highly compensated school employee pays 35% of their health care bill. It could be $13,000, $14,000 a year on a top plan. So recently the settlements have gone as high as the average is 2.98, and that's the settlement trend data. Minimum wage, you see, you've heard it, you've seen it everywhere. It's going up to $15 by 2024. How does that affect us? Sodexo, you're looking at probably an additional, with no other costs changing, and there will be changing costs, an increase of approximately $136,000. The Aramark contract at $15, an analysis would increase costs by about $250,000 on their contract. Community education subs and other district staff, you're looking at about $150,000 increase in salaries over the next several years. So realize these are, if it changed immediately, jump to $15, but within several years, that's what the impact looks like. Aramark's been a challenge this year because, quite frankly, the trades positions, the people are working, they're employed, they're making good money elsewhere other than working for a subcontractor for a school district. So it's been a challenge to bring in skilled mechanics, et cetera, at that level, for the trades. Referendum projects. Community middle school, they're still designing. I know there were meetings all day today. I missed those meetings. Last week you heard those meetings. James got to attend those today. Community all day. Grover's coming up. The generator projects, we discussed those last Monday, not Monday yesterday, but the Monday a week ago. Fire alarm projects as well. We had another meeting on those. The HVAC projects at Millstone and High School North, there's meetings coming up for those projects as well. So the design work continues on these projects. The refining of the design continues. There's going to be meetings held with faculty and staff reviewing the improvements in their individual buildings and administration. So again, there's going to be there's plenty of meetings. We should call that the meeting slide. Other than that, there's any questions? And next, on the 19th, we'll have the budget presentation, which will have the revenues. It'll have the appropriations. The tax impact, we still don't have the numbers from West Windsor. It's doubtful that we will before at least our budget is accepted. Plainsboro, we do. So when we make those presentations, at least with respect to an anticipated amount, because we don't set or collect those monies, that the West Windsor information will be using old information. And there will be a proration, obviously, between the two communities, and there's been a change in enrollment between the two communities. So there'll be other variables in play. But on the 19th, you'll see the revenues and the appropriations, for sure. Okay, any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Rousseau. We're at first opportunity for public comment. The board invites thoughts and reactions on agenda items and items of concern from members of our community who are present. Each participant is asked to give his or her name and address prior to making a statement, which will be limited to 3 minutes. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer, and this public comment period shall be limited to 60 minutes.
Hi, John Hinsdale, 38 Quaker Road, West Windsor. At a recent board meeting on February 19, 2019, Board Member Martin Whitfield made a rare public comment on the Class 3 officer program he voted for last summer, saying, quote, "My decision to vote for Class 3 was justified and right, plain and simple," unquote. In fact, no justification for voting for the program has been put forth by Board Member Whitfield nor by Board Members Flores and Juliana. This claim to the contrary is not credible. At the February 19th meeting, Board Member Whitfield also said, quote, "I've had countless conversations about Class 3 officers with residents of West Windsor and Plainsboro," unquote. If that were true, surely such conversations would have merited mention in the discussion and vote to approve the program last June. Yet Board Member Whitfield said nothing at all. You wouldn't even know he was in the room. So a reasonable person would have doubts as to whether these conversations occurred in countless number or at all. It is a recurring theme whether discussions cited in approval of the Class 3 program actually occurred. Back on June 26, 2018, Board Member Michelle Case cited as reason in part for her yes vote on the measure a discussion from a December 20th, 2017 special board meeting. Yet there is no record of that discussion having taken place. One would hope that this board's policy decisions are justified by facts and sound reasoning and not fabricated discourse. It remains an unsolved mystery why board members Flores, Whitfield, and Juliana silently voted the way they did. The burden of proof is on you to explain why you're spending our money on a program we don't obviously need. We're still waiting. The citizens of West Windsor are obliged to know the basis for, or failing that, to undo the effects of the Class 3 decision, which I believe was not made in our interest or with our collective blessing.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Yingchao YZ Zhang, 3 Fendi Lane from West Windsor. Hello?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? All right. Yeah. So just quick update from the West Windsor Township as a school board liaison representing the Township Council. We just finished 3 half-days budget meeting. I realized that I have to take some days off as opposed to work in the evenings. I have to take 3 half-days off. So we sort of wrapped up the budget discussion by yesterday noontime. There are some minor changes need to be worked out, but for the most part, we anticipate to approve the budget in early April. I'd hate to say April 1st, but so that's the update from the council, and I'm happy to see the initial presentation for your budget. I look forward to work together on the budget in the weeks and months to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Joanne Lasky, Hunt Court, West Windsor. I haven't come to speak to you guys for a while, but I have taken the opportunity in the past when discussion of budget comes up to kind of bring to your attention discussions that happen at the schools that I am representing from a PTA or PTSA perspective. So in years past, we discussed Millstone, and now we'll discuss middle school. So I'm here as myself, but actually speaking on behalf of parents I've spoken with at CMS specifically in the last couple of years. So what I want to share, and I know the specifics of the budget aren't included yet, but as you're discussing the budget, I just want to share that there's a lot of discussion among middle school parents about athletics. And if there's these district-wide discussions about our high school programs and the struggle that some of them are finding, the middle school families have shared concern that there might not be as many opportunities available for the quantity of children, spots, for example, specifically on teams, as children are interested. And I think that it's an important piece of this overall puzzle of how do we enhance our existing teams and potentially salvage struggling programs if there's a way to, from a financial perspective, address the state, the kind of understanding that the state slashed budgets of years ago, and I didn't have middle school children at the time, but I was witness to the slashing from the state aid, that we've heard that there used to be additional coaches or more children were included, and I know that the families of current middle school children are wondering if there's a way to increase those opportunities. Now, I know it's a big discussion and it's definitely something for the middle school buildings, but from a budgetary perspective, for my part, I would ask that you could consider ways to enhance and expand middle school offerings for our students, and I really do believe that there's a long-term benefit as well at the high school level. Thank you.
Thank you.
Veronica Mina, 41 Galston Drive. Regarding the incident that happened at Dutch Neck with a Class 3 police officer, Mr. Argis wrote to me, "We have looked into the matter and found that Officer Liz was being helpful to a student. Matthew's perception of the student being in trouble is not accurate." Now, Mr. Argis also wrote, "To clarify, Officer Liz did not pull a student out of the classroom. Mr. Eichelberner brought the student to the door so they would be able to speak without other students listening to their conversation." Basically, what that means is that police officer Liz went to the classroom and asked to speak to this particular student. I have asked several times for the policy because Mr. Adeholt in June 25th, 2018 said Class 3 police officers are not allowed to come to the classroom, and I am quoting his words, Class 3 police officers are not invited to walk around, and Class 3 police officers are not allowed to pull a student out. Ms. Kaish, as you are part of the board, the president of the board members, and you abide by the code of ethics, it says, "I will confine by board action to policy making, planning, and appraisal, and I will help to frame policies and plan only after the board has consulted those who will be affected by them." Where is the policy, Ms. Kaish? Send me a link. Tell me where I can find it in the school website. Where is the policy? Mr. Adeholt said it in that meeting where he did his presentation in the council. Where is the policy? I will send you an email so we can put it in writing. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, that will close our public comment period. We'll now move on to the voting portion of our agenda. Administration items. Item number 6, the second reading on a policy. Based on feedback that we've gotten since the last board meeting, we're going to send that policy back to committee for further discussion. So I need a motion on items 1 through 5. Martin and Isaac, are there any questions or comments about the administration items?
Okay, we'll start with Mr. Chang.
Yes.
Mr. Flores.
Yes.
Ms. Hertz.
Yes.
Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Mr. Whitfield.
Yes.
Mr. Zhang.
Yes.
Ms. Juliana.
Yes.
Ms. Case.
Yes. There are no curriculum and instructions items tonight, so we're going to move to finance. I need a motion on items 1 through 8. Taylor and Rachel. Are there any questions or comments about the finance items?
Okay, we'll start with Mr. Flores.
Yes.
Ms. Hertz. Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Mr. Whitfield.
Yes.
Mr. Zhang.
Yes.
Mr. Cheng. Jeez, I'm going to stutter. Ms. Juliana.
Yes.
And Ms. Case.
Yes.
Okay.
And I need a motion on personnel items, 1, and then we have a green and pink addendum. Martin and Carol?
I do have a small change on the green addendum. There's the staff member Rosalind Washington. The end date should be 6/30/19. Just note that. Thank you.
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Hertz. Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Mr. Whitfield.
Yes.
Mr. Zhang.
Yes.
Mr. Cheng. Mr. Flores.
Yes.
Ms. Juliana.
Yes.
Ms. Case.
Yes. I'd just like to take a minute to acknowledge the retirement of James Ang, who will be retiring at the end of this school year after 26 years with the district, and we wish him well in his retirement and thank him for his service to the school district. I'm going to need a motion on the approval of the minutes, but I want to make a note that in the draft, when it was reviewed, page 4 of the draft minutes from February 19th were updated to clarify the approval of administration item number 6. Just a little tweak in the draft. Okay, can I get a motion on the minutes? Tony and Louisa? All those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Or abstentions? Are there any liaison reports? Is there any new business? That brings us to the second opportunity for public comment. 15 minutes will be provided at the end of our meeting for public comment. Each participant is asked to give his or her name and address prior to making a statement, which will be limited to 3 minutes. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. Anyone? Okay. Seeing as there are none, can I get a motion to adjourn? Tony and Taylor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.